Hi everyone, welcome back to Self to Self. My name is Heem, that's Nick, and today's very special guest is Deepak Saini. We'll give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself, but I just want to give a quick background. He is the owner and CEO of Deepak Saini Health. That's telling you and everybody to be productive in business, sleep better, feel energized, improve relationships, and reverse the aging process, which is a really awesome way to tell people that basically that you got to live better. So Deepak, stage is all yours.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and having me on your show today. So, yeah, I'll be very brief. I don't want to bore the audience with my backstory. You can look that up on my website. But CPA by first profession, always had health struggles my entire life. Morbidly obese as a teenager, autoimmune condition. But in 2014, I hurt my back so bad that I couldn't pick up my youngest daughter out of her crib. So I like to say the Western medical system wasted 18 months of my health. Ineffective treatments run around through the system, the whole deal. So I found a healing modality to heal my back, and doing research on how I could optimize that more. I kind of came across the notion of inflammation just in general. So, and bringing inflammation down via lifestyle choices, primarily nutrition in my case, not only helped my back heal faster through the modality that I chose to use to heal my back, but the last 60 of the 100 pounds I've lost melted away in months. My autoimmune condition went into remission. I haven't been sick in like 8 or 9 years, even with all that's been going on the last 4 years. And yeah, so people started asking me like, how'd you do it? So I started informally coaching, business colleagues, coworkers, et cetera, to the point where I was like, I enjoy this a lot more than being a CPA. So I got some early certifications and started coaching as what we now call a side hustle. That term didn't exist back then. Evenings and weekends. And then a few years after that, I went full time, and I started working with people. Back pain and weight loss were basically who I was. But as I evolved myself and what I want for myself, and I have a publicly stated goal to be a centenarian plus. And for some people, they have this notion like, oh, I never want that, because they have this image of what maybe their grandparents or their parents went through. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, living in my own home, controlling my own destiny, stand up paddleboarding to my last days, snowshoeing in the winter, play with my great great grandkids. So as I evolved myself and how I approach my health, people were drawn to me. So yeah, now I work on people with working on their health span and their longevity.
That is amazing. And yeah, thank you for being on today. And I urge everyone that's listening to this podcast that go check out Deepak's socials. He's doing a lot of cool stuff. And one quick question, those glasses that you're wearing, are they easier on the eyes? Is that the reason you wear them?
Yeah, so these are blue light blocking glasses. I actually wear blue light blocking glasses all the time, unless I'm out first thing in the morning, early morning sun. Again, it's getting fall here, so, and it's raining today, so like there's no sun today. But even when I wear clear glasses, they're blue light blocking glasses. So yeah, depending on time of day, I'll flip to these amber ones, and then later at night I'll flip to my red ones. Again, just trying to optimize my sleep, my circadian rhythm, and honestly, people have gotten to know me a bit for them too, so it's a bit on my brand as well. So.
No, that's awesome. And I think quick, where are you from? Where are you originally from?
So my parents are immigrants to Canada. I live in Canada. I live just west of Calgary, Alberta, close to the Canadian Rockies. But my business is international. I work with people all over the world, primarily in the U.S.
Yeah. So for the business, what was like the point where you were like, okay, I can take the leap of faith and I can go from being, a CPA and really do what I want to do and help people as I've helped myself. What was like the turning point for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I worked in, again, I live here in Alberta, so this is the oil and gas capital of Canada. So very lucrative industry. Being a CPA, very lucrative industry. So I didn't do it for the money. Again, I started as a side hustle, getting to work with people, and it just got to the point where it's like, bottom line for anyone, as advice is like, you can't work on your own business when you're working in somebody else's business. And it got to the point where it's like, I just couldn't stand it anymore. Um, I needed to make a bigger impact. I wanted to affect more lives. And I got to the point where I was just, not replacing the type of income I was making before, but I got to the point where I was like, okay, I think we can, as a family unit, we can make it work with our lifestyle and our expenses and that sort of thing. And then I took the leap of faith to go full time. So yeah, that was the turning point. Just as I couldn't not help people to my full capacity and make the impact that I wanted to.
Super
So
cool.
now
Thank you.
is your plan to make a blueprint kind of and just kind of spread it to everybody and then have a network of other individuals that also kind of contribute to this, or are you writing solo right now and doing a lot of your advising right alone?
Yeah, great question. So I've typically always worked with people one-on-one. Just in the last year, maybe, but yeah, about a year now. I've so my mentoring coach, challenged me to. So let me take a step back. I have a publicly stated goal to impact 1 million lives in the next few years. So like, oh, that sounds like really crazy, right? How are you going to impact 1 million lives? Well, I personally feel that at the very minimum, when I'm working with my clients, right, it's them, and then probably like their family, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a ripple out effect that goes out, and it gets weaker and weaker, just like when you drop a stone in a body of water, and that ripple goes out. It gets weaker as it goes out, but it's touching a lot of people. I've had clients that have 5,000 employees. If they make one change in their business, that impacts 5,000 people. So that's gonna how I'm gonna get to the 1 million people. So I started. So my mentor and coach challenged me about a year ago. Like, you want to make that impact, you need to touch more people. You actually have to start doing group coaching. So that's what I started just in the last year. So I also still do one-on-one coaching as well, but I have a group coaching program, so that helps me touch more people. To answer your question, right now I'm going to have a team that helps me for various tasks that I just don't want to do. But right now I'm a solo person, and there's plans probably in the future to bring other coaches on board who share my philosophy and that sort of thing, so I can again touch more people.
I think
That's
the group
amazing.
coaching is really interesting, because working one on one, you can really set out and program individually for that person. What are they going through? You can look at stressors, you can look at diet, you can look at all these kind of things that could be causing inflammation, any problems in their life. So, how has that adjustment from working one on one to kind of going more group? How has that affected your philosophies, and how have you kind of pivoted to help as many people as you can?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'll go really high level here for the audience. So when I work with someone one-on-one, I think there's 7 big buckets of longevity or health, what have you. So in my group coaching, we touch on the first 5, and again, we can't go as in depth. So when I work with someone one-on-one, it's for a year. I work with someone for a year, so we can really see the impact. And then my group coaching program is just a 10-week program. So again, we touch on the first 5. We go deep enough that people can make positive change and start implementing habit changes, the ones that resonate with them. But again, it is 10 weeks and there's only so much, and some portion of my group coaching clients do choose to then continue to work with me one-on-one afterwards. So again, I can start to make, even if it's small, a positive impact on more people by doing the group coaching. But yeah, I do enjoy. There's pros and cons to both. One, I get to touch more people. There's group dynamics. There's more of a community sense when you're working in group setting. But with a one-on-one client, you get to know them very well. You get to know everything about their family and their personal relationships in a year. Plus, we can make bigger impact, and we can do more, in-depth things like more in-depth testing protocols and more, of the advanced, scientific, cutting edge, what the things I like to call the cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your one-on-one coaching. So if I came to you right now and we started our first session, am I signing up for like a 5-session thing? Is it based on how how I feel? Like, can I just stop at any point? What am I signing up for?
Great question. So again, I typically work with someone for a year. So, the intake is very important. Is this person committed? And of course, it's not only is it a time commitment on both our parts, especially for the client, but it's also more of a financial commitment for them too. So are they the right person? So we have a very, pretty in-depth, intake process to make sure that's the right person, because again, they're committing to a year. I sometimes do 6 months, if depending on the situation, but it's really a year long. And then again, on my one-on-one coaching clients, I really meet them where they're at. Like, we always start with mindset. I think that's the most important thing. If you're going to make any sort of change, any sort of health change, is really focused on the mindset. I call it, going back to my story that I, kind of just high leveled for you earlier. I remember how sucky my life was when I couldn't pick up my daughter out of her
Yeah.
crib. I never want to go back there. That's my purpose. That's my why. to like never feel like that again. So every decision I make is kind of related back to that. So I try and find that for my client. What is it for them? Maybe it's something similar. Maybe it's, overcoming some health challenges. Maybe it's, not having the same experience that their parents or grandparents had, whatever the case may be, and really tying to that. And then again, I think nutrition is a big lever that we can pull for people. So we hit nutrition pretty early on, even though many people think they're doing a great job, but actually when you really dial it in, there's always room for improvement. I think, even if it's just they're eating healthy foods, but it might not be the foods that actually are healthy for them from a DNA
Yeah.
or genetic point of view, right? So really dialing into that. And then after that, after those first, let's call it a month where we're really focusing on mindset, getting just the nutrition piece, just a snapshot, then we really just take it where they're at. Do they need to focus on sleep first? Do they need to focus on getting more movement? And is it actually relationship things, which I don't really promote? I'm not a relationship coach, but our relationships are a huge part. Community is a huge part of our overall health. So, that always comes in. So I just meet the client where they're at. And again, every individual one-on-one coaching client through the course of a year, we're going to go all over the place. There's obviously some testing involved. We do, at least basic blood markers, sometimes advanced. We'll do genetic testing if they're up to it, et cetera, et cetera. So it really meet the client where they're at in the one-on-one. And then the group coaching, again, it's a 10-week program. So it's kind of a set curriculum of the topics that we cover.
That's really interesting that you talk about like the DNA testing to find like the right diet and everything. Because, you're in Canada, I'm in Cleveland, Heem's in Michigan. If we both were one-on-one with you, how do you and your team kind of navigate those kinds of tests? Do you contact local like clinicians? Do you find, or like, do I send you things? Like, how does that work? I think that's really interesting, especially it's almost like telehealth in a sense, is like, you're helping these people through something like Zoom. So how has that been a challenge in your business, and how have you overcome it?
Yeah, it is very well. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe medical advice, right? I just make recommendations, and I'm very careful with the language I use to stay on side of. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, so I'm bound by HIPAA privacy and all these kind of things as well. So I have to be very upfront and careful with that. But yeah, it is essentially that. So my clients will get basic labs they'll get from their doctor. It depends where they live and what kind of tests they can get, and then we'll use that as a starting point. And then, depending on what we see, we might request them to get extra labs. And then, as far as like DNA testing or like age clock testing or something like that, they will get them themselves. I'll give them recommendations of who I think is the best one, or every once in a while I'll have a discount code for them or something that I've procured. Or and that sort of thing, and they'll go get that at their own time and at their own expense, and then they share that data with me. It could be via their Oura Ring data or any sort of other wearables. They'll share the data with me, and then we'll make decisions based on that. And then if somebody's really committed and they have maybe 5-6 pieces of data, then I have a dashboard that I'll use. And not every client uses that, because if you only have one piece of data, let's say it's just the Oura Ring, and they don't want to get genetic testing done for whatever reason, it's like, okay, like just share your Aura data. If you have like 5 different things, it's like, okay, well, throw it all in the dashboard, and then I can review before we have every session. So yeah, those are kind of the tools that I use.
So I know that like diet is a big thing. It's hits close to home for everybody. My dad personally, I try and have him eat healthy, but he does not eat anything healthy. He just like likes eating paneer and like the cottage cheese and Indian stuff like that, and very creamy and oily foods. But and his thing is like, I work so hard, I live such a good life, I'm like active, and like he always brings it back to like the fact that let me at least have some sort of satisfaction and eat what I want to eat, because it's like if he doesn't like the food, then he's not going to feel good. So, like, how can your clients, how do you mentally tell them that like you have to change your diet first in order to feel better internally? Because like changing your diet over the course of multiple weeks is when you can finally see results. It's not like eating healthy once or twice. It's like you have to eat healthy consistently over a span of maybe a month or so to really see the benefits. So what's your like, how do you like get through to people? And I'm sure your clients are on a wide spectrum of preferences. So what's your strategy with all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'll go back to like, why are you here? Why are you talking to me? Why are you working with me? What's that long term? What's that the mindset piece? What's the goal? Is it I want to be around for my grandkids' high school graduation. I want to be around for my daughter's wedding. I want to dance at my daughter's wedding. Like, what is that? And really tie to that. And it's like, okay, you tell me this is important. Now we have some markers, we have some data. Look, you're on a slippery slope, or maybe they already have conditions. Maybe they already have diabetes or something, which is huge in the Indian community, right?
Oh
And it's
yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
like, is this important to you? Yes or no? And if it is, then like we need to address it. And I'm not gonna, I don't hold a gun to anyone's head, obviously, right? But it's like, is this important to you? What can we do? So, to use your dad's example, it's like, okay, well, what kind of oils are you cooking with, right? Traditionally, like everyone uses vegetable oils now, right? Probably the number one worst thing you can have in your diet, in my opinion. Our ancestors, again, I'm Indian of Indian descent as well. Our ancestors didn't use vegetable oil; they used ghee or coconut oil or something. Go back to that, and depending, maybe it's a weight thing. I don't know if this is for your dad, Heem. I'm just using an example. It's like aloo gobi. Okay, so for those who don't know, potato and cauliflower like stew, right? Well, have more cauliflower and less potato in your stew if you need to lose weight and you need to cut some carbs. Let's just make some minor changes, one or two at a time. At most two, the nutrition, we might have like a sleep change and maybe a movement change at the same time. But like nutrition, you can't change 20 things at once. No one will stick to that. So let's change one or two small things and start to move you, in the right direction. The other thing I have my clients do is also, besides tracking their sleep, but how they feel. How's your bowel movements? I use this example all the time. If you're like, I'm not huge into like overly tracking and counting your calories or macros. I actually don't believe in all that stuff. Just eat real food. But I do like to have a snapshot, a 2-week snapshot with my clients. So for example, it's like, geez, your form here says like every Tuesday you have diarrhea in the morning. Okay, what do you eat every Monday night or every Sunday night? Like, you always have the same meal. Well, hey, maybe that's something, not saying that's a cause, but maybe there's some correlation to what you're eating the day or two before that's causing your tummy troubles or whatever, the headaches, whatever the case may be, and start to make them aware. And they're like, oh, I really feel crummy when I have that headache. Could it be that I'm eating this? Well, let's see. Let's take it out for a week. Let's take it out for 2 weeks and just see and get them to, because ultimately, whether they're a one-on-one coaching client or the 10-week group coaching, at some point, they're no longer working with me. They have to build the habits for themselves and they have to have their own agency over their own health and then move forward. So I just help guide them along that way. I'm just an educator for them, but ultimately everyone's in control of their own lives.
Yeah, I really like the recommendation for like the small changes. Like I have an anecdote. I love making burgers at home for dinner because they're so easy to make and it's easy cleanup in 10, 15 minutes. But like an 80-20, ground beef is awesome. Like it's so good. But I was like, I should probably go like to 93.7 if I want to cook with ground beef because I started to like feel a little bit more sluggish. I was struggling to sleep a little bit, and it has helped. It has helped. I've started making more meals with ground beef that's more protein, less fat, and I have felt a lot better over the last couple of months, which is awesome. But I have a follow-up question with we're talking about diet. What about alcohol consumption? I'm sure you get people who love to drink. So how does that affect everybody can be like, oh, I can change my diet for 6 months. But if you were like no alcohol for 6 months, some people might go a little nuts. So how do you counterbalance that with people and their journey?
Yeah, again, like every habit change, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Go back to what's your purpose? What's your why? If it's some longevity goal or something, it's like, okay, like does this, whatever that looks like, is it 1 drink a day? Is it like 27 drinks only on Saturday and Sunday? Like what it is, like we got to sort of sort that out. I would make it perfectly clear. And like, I'll be honest, like I drink on special occasions myself. Now, for me, that's far and few between. My threshold of a special occasion is higher than for others, which is totally fine. To each their own. There's no judgment on my part. But I make it clear, there is no benefit. There's no health benefit to alcohol. You are putting a poison into your system. And if you choose to do that, that's fine. Let's find the best option for you. And I have a stack rank. We don't have time to get into that now of like, here's your best choice, here's your next, until to like, this is the worst choice you can have. And if you're someone who likes the worst choices, like, can we move you at least in the healthier direction if you're going to drink anyway? Again, I'm not putting a gun to anybody's head, right? It's up to them. to choose what they want. And if they want to have one drink every day for whatever that psychological reason is for them, great, let's make it the healthiest choice that it can be or that you can tolerate. So I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be like a big question. It was just, you know, alcohol is very prevalent, not just in the United States or Canada, it's all around the world. And that is a huge dietary thing and a huge dietary concern that a lot of people have, but people can't kick it. So, I was wondering from your experience if, how you navigated that, but you answered it. It was, what's your purpose? Why are you even here? Like if you're drinking 10 drinks a day, you probably need to go see somebody else along with me, for a life coach. You probably need to go to AA. You probably need to do, have a good, nice little reflection. So
yeah, and absolutely. And, and I've gotten clients before who have done that work and are now in recovery from whatever their substance of choice was. And now they're ready to take their health. They got that demon, maybe not kicked, but handled. And now they're like, okay, now I need to work on the rest. Maybe it's the mental, maybe it's the physical, whatever. So I don't say a lot, but I get the odd client who like, they've kicked that demon and now they're ready for the next stage of their journey.
I think one metric that has no quantitative measurement is quality of life. It's like you can't really put a number on it and there's no test for it. And I think like some people that are bound by like their personal lifestyle choices and things like that don't know what the other side has to offer. So unless they get the mental state that like, hey, what you're doing right now is holding you down. Like every day you're thinking about, okay, I need to smoke this or I need to drink this or something like is holding me back. They don't know the other side of things. So I think your type of work is like super important to everybody because they need to realize that like having no attachments to any of this really opens up your life to a whole new like quality where you're just like happy every day, you feel healthy, and even tummy issues. That's like a big thing for everybody. When you go on a long trip and you're worried like when's the next bathroom break gonna be or something. Like these are like small things that really increase your stress level that really takes a toll on everybody. So I really appreciate like all the work that you're doing, and I think it's really awesome that, people
Thanks,
have a
guys. I
chance to like
appreciate
connect
that.
with
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
And I think it's important to say that you could be Dwayne the Rock Johnson and there's still improvements you can make. Like everybody has steps they can take forward to live a better lifestyle, and you being a coach and a beacon for people to come to, not only in Canada and the United States, but from around the world, is really, really awesome to see. And frankly, there should be more people like you really reaching out to people and trying to help.
It's a growing, like you guys said at the top, it's a growing industry for sure. I mean, there's plenty of coaches, and again, just where's your niche, right? Like I said, I started weight loss and back pain, and then I evolved to, kind of let's call it health span and anti-aging.
Yeah.
Now, do you know about like any of the supplements? Like I asked this to another anti-aging person we've interviewed, but he's like a legit like researcher that works in the lab and everything for a school. But like NMN, like nicotinamide mononucleotide or NR, do you like tell your patients to take any supplements like that to like increase the rejuvenation of their body?
Yeah, I'll certainly recommend things like that. I've even taken clients if they're local, I've gone with them and we've gone like NAD IVs or other sort of IVs, just as it let them see how they feel about that. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe anything. I can strongly suggest, and again, it depends on what their chemistry is. As an example, I'll just use one example. I use methylene blue for focus and mitochondrial health. But I've had clients that pass that, are still on SSRIs and like, well, oh, that's a, contraindicator. You can't take that even though they want to. It's like, no, you cannot take that. So to answer your question is like, absolutely, I take some of those type of things myself. I kind of have a mitochondria stack that I use myself personally, and then I recommend as needed. And of course, it depends on people's budget and what they want to do and how far they want to go with it. Some people, like, if you're not taking anything, let's start with like vitamin C and vitamin D. Like, let's go with basics. And if you're build that up, then okay, now we can talk about MNN, NR, whatever the case may be, right? But if you're not taking the basic supplements, like let's not even talk about that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have one last question before we kind of wrap up this first part. We've talked a lot about diet and just general mental health. Do you recommend and help people maybe who are interested in like exercising, and for like weight loss and like a little bit of like like not strength and conditioning for like a sport per se, but just like some general guidance of like, hey, like you should do some cardio and then you should lift light this day and maybe this, like,
Yeah, so yeah, that is part of movement, and I use the term movement because there's a lot of that encompasses movement, right? So for my definition, movement is not only cardio, it's not only strength training, it's also balance work, it's also active recovery work. So yes, both in the group coaching and one-on-one coaching, we discuss movement as well. And again, it's where the people are at, right? And depends what their goals are, and even to a degree, what are their genetics and epigenetics as well. So again, you can test if you're fast twitch, slow twitch, and then what are your goals, right? Like if you want to be a marathon runner, like okay, great, that's not my choice, but we can, again, I'm not a sports specific coach,
Right.
but I can help guide people in the type of exercise they should do for their goals and their body and their life stage as well, right? Like obviously I have probably my average clientele is and of course there's outliers, but it's probably in the 50 to 55 range. So again, you're at a different life stage than someone who's 23, and what you can do and that sort of thing. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, movement, sleep, stress reduction, breath work, nutrition, mindset, plus is all part of what I work on with people.
Great. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, like, do you know about Brian Johnson? Have you heard of this guy who does like a lot of
Yeah,
the
yeah, he keeps coming up, and
yeah.
I haven't read his full thing. He keeps coming up all the time. Seems like he's obviously getting a lot of good press, right? And a lot of yeah, clicks and that sort of thing. So he's obviously a little bit of a darling in the market right now. Hey, I wish I had $2 million or whatever that I could spend a year or whatever on my health, and then I wouldn't have a public state goal to be a centenarian plus. I'd have a public state goal to be 180. If I could throw everything at it like he can. So good on him. He's got the resources, but that's not most people, right? That's 99.9% of even people in the Western world. Or the developed world, that's still not most of them. So again, meet people where they're at and what fits into their goals and also their budget.
The thing I like about him is like even though he has all his resources, there are people that can relate to him in the amount of resources, but they don't have the same purpose as he does. I think it's really great. He's the most measured human on earth. Apparently, he's done every kind of test multiple times with all the different companies, and he puts it all out on the internet. He shows his entire diet he uses, he shows his entire workouts, everything for free too. He had been selling olive oil, which is like extra virgin olive oil, which is the one thing he's like kind of monetizing out of this, but I think it's really awesome. But we can move on to our next episode. Nick, we can wrap this up. Thank you,
Yeah,
Deepak.
absolutely.
No, thanks,
Yeah.
guys. I appreciate being on the show.
No, we appreciate you coming on, and this was a great conversation. We're gonna release a second episode. A little bit down the line, we're gonna talk about something really cool that Deepak has coming up. So yeah, stay tuned. But this has been another episode of Sell to Sell. Deepak, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I'm Nick. That's Heem, and we'll see you in the next one.